Hi, I'm Pietro Polzinelli from Open Lab, and in this video I'll present Homer, a free web-based service that we created and just put online, which is a tool for narrative design and game writing. Why did we build this tool? Well, yes, we know that there are other tools for game designers and writers, but the idea for Homer came to me about a bit more than a year ago when I was teaching at the university a course on narrative design and game writing, and I would have liked to have a tool, a free tool, maybe web-based, that I could use for myself and with the students, and that through which I could teach both how to design flows, a little narrative logic and quest, and at the same time writing content in it, because the two things are, in my opinion, strictly connected, and they, in order to optimize learning, teaching, and the production, you need to have a short, say, write and test cycle. So basically, I would have liked to have a tool that could where I could work structurally on the logic and the flow, but as a content creator, as a writer, of course, it's very useful to have a view, a way to write as you write in a page. So my idea was why can't I have a tool that does both at the same time, and whatever you write in one context, it's also immediately not only can be seen in a structural view, but can also be edited at the same time in a structural view. And this idea of having these two views is one of the reasons why I proposed to my partner in Open Lab, Matteo Bicocchi, to build this tool, and so we started. On top of this, of the fact of having the possibility of editing both in structure and in a page flat view, of course we wanted also the possibility of running what you're writing anytime, even with drafts and incomplete flows and dialogues, and on top of this, also having an easy way to put it online and share it, and finally, very important, an easy way and easy, quick, rapid workflow in integrating this with a game development tool, which in our case is mostly Unity and web-based games, but of course with any kind of engine, be it Unreal or Game Maker. And so these four principal: structural edit, page-based editing, quick previews and runs, and integration with game development tools were our requirements, and we think that Homer helps you in all these aspects. But in building it, then we added to it lots of other stuff, things that are, I mean, strictly necessary. So, for example, the fact of having logic not only in the form of nodes and flow, but also putting it in, say, inside annotations in nodes, and variation of texts, and all these little things, the distinction between local and global variables, and so on. But then, so we wanted for more, like having states on the state of your dialogue and flows, how you're writing categories, having the possibility of having metadata on every note and adding direction notes, and more and more. And so this is what all these features of the editor is what I will focus on this video. In a following video, I will show how to integrate Homer with Unity and web-based applications, and then any kind of game engine. And in a third video, I will focus more on aspects of doing narrative design with Homer. So how do you start using Homer? Well, first of all, you need to sign up for the service, which so you'll find the URL shown here, homer.open-lab.com. And for help and sharing ideas, you can post on the Discord channel, and then we have our 2 Twitter streams of the 2 designers and developers of the service. Okay, so supposing that you signed up, you will find yourself in this kind of situation. And so the example that I've been showing this video, you will find it if you import the example project. Okay, so we don't need to do that, but let's start with an empty new project, like test. Okay. And okay, so where are we? What is this? This is a project. A project is a collection of flows, where we use the term flow, meaning it can be anything from the whole quest structure, from the plot structure, a dialogue, and so on. So you can have as many as you want here, and of course, like in our sample project here, we have this is a mix of dialogue and logic, and it's a little game, but you can have dialogue, stories, or just logical quests, or bits of quests, or even mind state of characters, and so on. So this is very nice, because you can use this tool to compose a narrative logic which is articulated, and you have it all here. Okay, but let's start with simple things. And so once you have one or several projects, inside your project here on the left part, you see all your flows, and flows are made of nodes. Okay, so we can start in this view, or we can start in this view as you want. Let's start creating a text node. Okay, so which is like the basic unit of flows, and a text node is something that then the game or the application or the web page can use to print content. And UTF-8, so full encoding supported, will get to localization. But let's say here you're writing your main reference language first. And what are the features of a text node? A text node inherently supports variations. And so this is like hello friends, and this and here could be dear all, nice to see you. Okay, and so on, and you can add more and more. Now, so once you created your first text node, how you connect it? Use Control Command, and that's how you connect nodes one to the other. But we have 2 variations of this node. So what will happen when I say play, which is this button, but it can also be Control U. Okay, so when I play this, which are this like the smallest possible story, the engine prints hello friends, which is the first content of the first text node met. Okay, let's close this. The criteria, so if we say that from here we go back to the start, we have an infinite loop, of course, which is nothing bad with that. Games are mostly made of those. And so if I go here, it will show me hello friends next, but then it will show me dear all, nice to see you, and what happens next and next, and it stops on this alternative. So this because we have adopted here as cycle type between alternatives the list, but we could loop use the loop, the random, or the smart random, which means smart random means that it will exclude between the possible candidates the ones that have already been used, if possible. Okay, so if we add, let's say, a third voice here, hello friends, dear all, nice to see you, I know you all. Okay, and then we adopt as cycle type, which is smart random, we should see you we should see I love you all, random, dear all, nice to see you, hello friends, and then it will start again looping. Okay, so that's already a lot of stuff. We have more, we have metas on, but let's move on, okay, and switch to the other basic constituent, which is the choice for interactive fiction of any kind, but also for plot quests and so on. So a choice node. Now notice here that choices are not just the choices. They may or may not have a header which is explaining the choices. One thing that we've done in Homer, which is not so practical in other tools I tried, is the fact that you can at any time take build the narrative which is actually said by characters, so spoken by characters somehow, okay, or you can have narratives or bits of your narrative which are meta text, which is just printed or said by a narrator voice eventually. Okay, so we need to have this option in always there whatever we're writing. Okay, so in this case so we may or may not use the header, and then you can pick in the layout whether to print it. So now the answer to this, I'm answer to myself, can be several choices. So let's say as we have somebody talking here and a possible answer there, that what are we using here is the notion of actor, which is also crucially important to have it separated from the content. Also for the poor game developer has to integrate all this, not mixed randomly in the script. Okay, so of course here we have all the actors, and you can create anytime. There's a little visual composer which is just for the editor, of course. In your game or your application you will have your representation of the characters. Okay, and okay, Angelique is fine, and we generated a random visualization. But notice here too we have the possibility of actors which are actually the narrator, so they are the meta elements. Okay, and I will so add a third one, which would be my narrator, and I'll mark it as narrator. Okay, so it has no image. Great. So this is let's say Angelique saying this, and you can answer to her, and you can pick so nice to meet you, maybe not so nice answer, so another one could be okay, and you. Okay, and so these are our three okay, and this could be, yeah, so this is linked to this, and this may lead to yes, you may notice that you may select select and move stuff and add stuff, and also multi-edit stuff and so on, but let's keep it simple for the moment. Here I will have possible answers, and no, that's not what I wanted. Sorry, notice that we have undo. Okay, I just wanted to delete a line, sorry, delete line and delete line. Okay, okay, and if I say nice to meet you, say happy, and otherwise not so happy. Okay, okay, this goes here, and this goes here, and this goes here. Okay, so you see, and now we can immediately of course we could go here and edit here. All nice to see you now, and again you, and so on. I mean, I can work in both views and also add things and so on. Anyway, so let's all be friendly, nice to meet you, happy, and it's over. And we could loop from here to the beginning, or if we didn't like to the lines how they made, you can add layout node so that we don't touch other nodes. Sorry. Yes. Okay. And so okay. Okay, so we've seen really the really basic kinds of nodes, which are text and choices, but there's way more node types and more concept variables, global variables, local variables, and so on. Okay, so after having seen some very basic examples, let's go through the material that is in the sample project, which you probably should import on your first usage of Homer. And by going through that, we can see many other kinds of nodes and several usages. But first of all, I wanted to introduce and talk about variables, because that's those are the means through which your writing can become more dynamic, interactive, and also it's the way to communicate with the rest of the game. And Homer is a tool meant for we try with it to make it as practical as possible, integration and quick prototyping integrated with your game development environment and tools. Okay, so in order to ease the creation of content that works with variables, we introduce actually two kinds of variables. So in Homer, there are global variables that start with a $sign, and there are local variables that start with a percentile sign. So the global variables, which are kept like actors in a separate archive, where you can add them and edit them and even refactor them. But anyway, so the global variables can be read externally to Homer and even set externally from Homer. So it's a way of exchanging information with the rest, with the game environment. Variables are of type bool, which is true false, string, so any kind of content, integer, floating value, and floating point values, and fixed, which is something that is not usually available, which means that but is actually one of the things most used in games, because fixed means that you're setting a fixed set of possible values, like enums in certain languages. And so that you're sure that when you're using that kind of variable value, you're not using something invalid or not handled by the application, which can be expressions of the characters, animation names, states, whatever. Okay, so this also is a way to make it easy and practical for narrative design. And notice that when you're exporting from Homer to other tools, all these elements are available as static elements in classes to the developer. So this makes it very practical, and you're compile time sure that you're using the right values. Anyway, so in our example project, so if you go in the last flow, so which this models the fact that you can have in your design, in your content engine, which is Homer, not just dialogues and contents and descriptions, but even, for example, answer from characters, from their mind state, which may involve, may take into account the environment, previous experiences, and everything. You can do all of this with Homer. And so if the engine asks to Achilles what's his current mind state, the way of asking and also parametric asking what to Homer, to the engine, is through this var, which I call CMD command. Okay, so if the game engine said that the command is wants self-esteem, it's asking the narrative engine what is Achilles' self-esteem in this moment. And if the engine asks for origins, means that probably the player has clicked on the non-player characters and want to know who is he, who is she, and this kind of thing. So this is a way of pinging the narrative engine for information, but it's not just following a dialogue. So you see that this kind of tool is not. Some people think that this kind of narrative design is for like classical adventure type, so just role-playing games, but actually can be used for any kind of game that has that wants to also have a narrative element, has characters and story. Okay, so this is how you can use global variables. You basically use variables for testing conditions, and so this kind of nodes are called conditional nodes. Okay, and here you're checking whether some variable has some value. But then there are also nodes where you're just setting variables to values. So let's go to our first example. So here, notice this is not a global variable, it's a local variable. So here, by making a choice to be Greek or Trojan, you are setting the variable of the player's side. So why here I'm using a local variable and not a global variable? Well, because the scope of the variable, so the sense and the usage of the variable, is internal to the narrative flow. So in this case, I would use local variables instead of global ones. So if we run it, notice how cool, nice is the fact that we can see while running the program what are the values of all global and local variables. So this is very useful. And if we enable this step-by-step check, we can not only play the flow through the content node, so jumping from text to choices to text, but also see the little intermediate step where the logic is computed. So okay, so now we see that this player side variable is Trojan. So I check Greeks, okay, and player side indeed has become Greeks, okay. And so as we go on, we have other choices here. They're not setting variables, but we can see what is happening here. Okay, now we reach a choice, and this is a special choice. What do you notice here? You notice there's this minus sign here, which means that this choice can be selected only once. So if the game loops and gets back to this node, the choice chosen will not be available. Now the problem arises is what happens if all the choices have been consumed. Well, then you can use failed node connections, which we haven't seen yet, but I will show you. Anyway, let's go on and notice how here the preview is stopping also in intermediate nodes where calculations are done. In this case, this is an evaluation node, so it's checking whether my player side is Greeks, which is true indeed, or Trojans. So it will take this path, and so we get to this text where we see, well, we've seen that with no conditional nodes you can do ifs, okay, so conditions, but actually it's very practical, and this is not the only thing you can do. You can also do variations of contents and more within text. Okay, sometimes it's very useful, and also it's comfortable not to write nodes and nodes and nodes, to do conditions and logic inside the text of nodes, and you can indeed do this in Homer. So this is an if condition, and if the player side, if I made a choice that is not consistent to the player side that I have taken, that this little game actually tells me, okay, because I've asked to have stronger walls, but actually I chose the Greek side, so the text gets composed dynamically and sends me to play again. Okay. So we've seen a whole lot of stuff. We've seen the fact that how local variables are used. We've seen all these choices. We've seen choices with unique usage lines. We've seen conditional nodes where conditions can be checked, and we haven't seen this yet, but I'll explain it now, and we'll see it in action. So among the things that the logic you can write inside text are the fact that you can do variations. So you can write alternative of content using several criteria. Now loops is not the only possible criteria. One is list, loop, and smart run. What does it mean? That among the possible alternative to be attached to you've been, there's loop, which means it will be zapped, then destroyed, then disintegrated, and zapped, destroyed, disintegrated, or list, which will be zapped, destroyed, disintegrated, and from there on disintegrated, or smart random, which will be a random one, but excluding the ones that have been already proposed. So all this gives you a lot of alternatives so that Homer can adapt to different styles of writing conditionals, alternatives, and you can because different contexts need slightly different solutions. So, and again, all this now to show you the structure and focus on that kind of writing. But of course, if you're writing the base, probably the first version of your dialogue, for example, it's probably way more practical to write in this view. And if you just use Enter, Shift, Enter, and Control, and you have all the controls to add new lines, new nodes connected, and so on. Okay, so I think we've seen a bit how all the logic is used here. Let's check more functionality. Okay, so let's see more work that can be done inside the editor. So we wanted to make it more as practical as possible to get stuff that you've written in spreadsheets or text documents inside Homer as quickly as possible, of course. So one thing we did that if you copied your spreadsheet or text and you're not selecting any node in Homer, and you do Control-Command-Shift-V, a wizard for importing will open up and will split the content of the clipboard according by default by double new line separator, but you can use one new line or double new lines to split, and you can pick your own separator for the lines. And then if you do add node, they will be all pasted and they will be connected in the same order. So this is, and you can even move them all and so on. So this is a very practical and really quick way to test maybe a dialogue you've written. And of course, if you press play or press Control U, and you can you see it's already working immediately. And if it's like a theater dialogue, that is very practical indeed. Okay, so that's a really nice thing to get stuff. this other example in the sample project is shows you how several other kinds of nodes work, and also shows you how the same objective can be done in different ways according to what your need and style. So we want 3 characters to say bye alternatively and without repetitions. And so one way to do that is to use a switch. This is a kind of node that it's called sequence here. Okay, a sequence node, so that every time that the engine goes through it, it will go to the following line. Again, here, like in text nodes and so on, we have logic of sequence. So whether it's a list, it's a loop, it's a random, or it is a smart random in moving from one line to the other. And so this is one way to do it. But if you prefer, or because of game engine integration, you can use a variable here. In this case, I'm using a local variable, so no integration. But anyway, you would use a global one for that. Anyway, using this local variable count to 0, and each time one of the characters says bye, the counter goes +1, and so the switch, which is a smart random, will go to some other of the guys and say bye. And then yet another way is to use the random function. So the available functions for operating variables are just the arithmetical ones, the logical ones, and the random function. And notice that the mathematical operation, like sum, multiplications, they do not use formula like plus equal, like so operation and assignment together, but you have to write it explicitly this way. So in this way, it's compatible with the different export and engines when you're modifying variables. Anyway, so we see that there are 3 ways to achieve the same result, that the 3 characters all say bye. And of course, you can play this and pick which way you want to do it, and they will say bye. Here I have the step by step, but can be quicker without it, and so on. Okay. Okay, so that's another thing. Then there is here a little game, which is a little puzzle game. So it shows you how to formalize that with Homer as a narrative design tool. So here we have a character that wants to bring across the river a fox, a cabbage, and a rabbit, without the fox eating the rabbit eating the cabbage. And you can make only one of them, take with you only one of them with your little boat across the river. And so this has been formalized with local variables. And I think with all the things that we're using here, we've already seen. Yes, there's some logical check. And yeah, what's nice here is also the usage of structural nodes. So you can see the whole flow together. And of course, Control 0 remove the zoom. But what's nice in Homer is that you always have a map. The map is interactive, so it tells you what's the content of the node, and it moves where you're clicking to it. Okay, so this is super cool and nice. And also the multi-select and moving stuff. You can also, with multi-select, is also multi-edit. So if I say I wanted to change here the actor of 2 nodes, I can. I'll put it back to the narrator, and so on. Okay. Yes, so this was yet another bunch of techniques and tools. Okay, so another feature I wanted to stop a bit on is the fact that one thing that by doing narrative design and game writing also, and two things are strictly connected. In fact, they're connected by the fact that often in the game writing you want to have want to give and even set a lot of narrative direction tags. So we said, why not have a lookup for that too? And so we introduced this metadata annotation that you can add on any node, where you can set mood, expression, balloon type if it's dialogue, location, camera direction even, and like voiceover direction and light, even lightning direction, and so on. So the idea is that this is in fact a lookup for this metadata. So where you have all these predefined types, but you can of course add your own, expand the existing one, and so on. And there can be a very practical way, like here setting the balloon types, pitch, whisper, thought, sing, which is the standard comic balloon types, and these are very useful if you're using like visual novel narrative kind of game. And but in metadata too, there's actually more. You can also like add images to nodes, like if you have a concept for the thing or a typical background or something, and it will show in the preview and in but not just in the internally to the editor preview, also it will show in a public preview, which we haven't seen yet, and we'll get to that. Okay, so here, for example, on this node, I've set an image, and in fact, when you go and play, you see that image's cover, and it will show here in the contents if you added it to various nodes. Okay, another thing. So we did actors, variables, local and global metadata. Another nice thing which I found missing in other tools is the fact that you are writing. If you're responsible for the contents of the game, you're not responsible just for the dialogue or for the descriptions, like labels, names for the items, names for even the UI, the player's menus, the settings, and so on. And probably you want this content also to be localized, so it will be very practical to have an editor that allows to add these tools which are not in the quests, not in the dialogue, not in the descriptions, but somewhere. So to have it all together. And this of course also available comfortably to the game developers inside the game development environment. So, and this is exactly what labels does, and actually allows you to insert labels and localization for the different languages enabled for the game. Okay, I think we've seen a lot of stuff that I wanted to show you about editing, but now let's go to sharing. So the fact is, in Homer, you can once you created each of your flow, your whole project can have a public preview, and so it generates this link. And so if you enable it and you generated it, it's you see this URL is actually available for anyone who knows about it. You share it with. You can also set a password if you want, and so they can play it here and see it, interact with it, and give you feedback, because actually here you can also enable annotations from the users. Another very, very important thing is that in fact you can share your project with other users. So this is unique, of course, for a web-based application, and not only you can share with them the project, but you cannot work two people on the same flow, but you can work several people on the same project, and Homer will lock and tell you whether there's somebody else, and who's working on which. So if you say one of you can work on content and another can work on plot and so on, so you can have one different person for each of the flows at the same time. So this is super cool. You can actually see what the others are doing. You can go into read-only mode. It actually will go automatically if you're not the editor in that moment of that flow, and it will update every few seconds, showing what they're doing in other flows. So that's very nice. Now, all this, of course, needs because this is a free service, so you need to somehow, we needed to make every account safe and independent from support, because we cannot give direct support, of course, in the case of a free service. So we have this automatic backup system that creates a backup every day of your whole entire project, so you can recover that. And you can also force backups to be done now. Oh, I forgot a little thing about the preview. Once you enable the preview of the project, it will not be updated in real time every time you do modifications, because you may be experimenting or breaking something in your flows. So once you decided that what you've done, you want to move it to the public preview, you have to do update public preview. Okay. And yes, you can do backups on our service, but of course, another very good way, very safe way, is to periodically export your project to JSON and save the file somewhere else, so that you have your own backups. And of course, these files can also be re-imported at any time. And of course, also you can anytime delete your account and delete projects forever, so that you can move them and maybe to just internally to your game engine. For what concerns the developer integrations, we'll do that in the next video. So I hope that this was useful, and that Homer will prove somehow useful to some of you. And remember to help us support the project, and to keep it going. Check out our support us page on the website. Thank you.